Hello and welcome to UAT Tech Tangents. I'm Robert Walker.
And I'm Dave Bolman.
And we are talking all about tech education, the side quests of technology. And we got a fun topic for you today. Virtual reality, augmented reality. They've been around for a while, Dr. B. I mean, we've seen, augmented reality in the NFL with the yard lines at basketball and all these things.
Yeah, you got the Simpsons playing the games. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And we're at a point now where virtual reality and augmented reality have finally in this decade been used for the purposes of medical and military and a lot of different use cases, and I think are bettering the community.
Yeah.
What's your take on VR, AR?
They're actually, I find this one of the most fascinating areas of tech because it's been around, especially VR, since probably around 1992.
Yeah.
So that's old.
Yeah.
I remember, back in those days, seeing and working with early VR systems that were doing simulations and the computers took the size of this podcast room.
Yeah.
And you had the helmets, you had the wands, you had the concept was all there that we see today. It's just taken it's been a long journey for the systems to get faster and actually, like when you look through the helmets, they're not totally awkward, but the imagery looks good and things like that. And so I think we're at a spot now where with VR, the tech is good enough to do meaningful things.
Yeah.
I just kind of think people are trying to figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
And you hear you gave that list of medical and training and simulation, and it is exactly the same list that we were talking about 30 years ago. And what I think is kind of funny is we had this thing happen a couple of years ago where, you had Meta and, they were going to make their big push, and they built the biggest AI infrastructure to go ahead and make this thing happen. And people got really excited because you had Oculus, headsets, and you had Apple's Vision Pro and things like that. People got really excited about it. And then you kind of heard this, got quiet and got crickets for a while.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing is there's more VR happening than you might expect. It's just not as visible as you might expect. You're seeing situations the systems that are being used to pre-design, objects for manufacturing. It's a pretty good system for VR. You can put a VR headset in, and some good tools are being written to allow you to go ahead and assemble and put parts together and see how things fit. So you mix a VR headset in with a tool like SolidWorks, and you begin to be able to be a designer, putting together parts and it's in a way that feels like it's with your hand, but it's that kind of tools out there. And you're seeing things like something you're going to encounter when you're working with the FBI next few weeks.
Yeah.
Is they've got a simulation area that they use for training of their field agents. And at some point you'll probably get to run through it where, it is a dark room with projection screens that are tracking your motion. He doesn't use head-mounted display, but it's tracking what you're doing as you move through and the screens update with you and you run through an entire simulation. The thing about things like that is they're very effective, but they're expensive.
Yeah.
And you see them with flight simulators, military and commercial flight simulators. It's a VR experience.
Yeah.
And they're pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I remember I got to do one out at Luke Air Force Base, and it was surprisingly the vibe was right. It's okay, you can really feel here's how this works. And so you're seeing it in places like that. You're definitely seeing folks who want to do VR for games.
Yeah.
But it's not like the big games. It's kind of it's got its fans.
Yeah.
And what I think is the barrier for VR in terms of consumer use is at the end of the day, I just don't think people want to wear the headsets for more. It's a little bit.
I think you're absolutely right. I think there comes a threshold where you're like, okay, I need to take these off because I want to. And that's why I think that AR is so interesting because it's that augmented part.
Right.
I think that is really bustling because people are already used to their environment. It's adding in those small fixtures. I mean, and you see it in small doses. I mean, you see the Snapchat filters, which turn your face into dogs.
Right.
You see, a lot of use cases, especially in traffic control too. And so it's like, I think AR is just more easily digestible to the layman human because it's our environment just enhanced.
Right. And like I see it in the last year, I've seen far more places where I'm getting ready to buy something, a couch, some art, a plant, something that goes in my garage. And pretty universally, the app on my phone says, hey, do you want to see if that fits? It's embedded in, it's really simple. I walk into the space and it goes, here's what things going to look like in this space, and it drops it in.
Wow.
And I think AR is sneaking up into those kind of situations.
Yeah.
And it's a great place for it. I mean, even something silly like the tools that measure your wall with your phone. That's an AR example.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty accurate and works well. And what's great about it from a developer standpoint is everybody's got a phone. You just make the Apple version, make the Android version, and you're off and running.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see AR work its way into lots of little things.
Yeah.
And as people find like apps that make sense. One of my favorite ones I did once was there was an AR app that I used for finding your gate in an airport. And it was kind of sweet. It was like I landed at the airport. I said I need to get to this gate, and it was a big airport. It was like Dallas or something like that. And the thing came up, and it put like the arrows, as a little track arrow on the floor in front of me.
Yeah.
And so I could just kind of keep the phone up and walk, and it just walked me right there. And then I think stuff like that is really helpful.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of figuring out. I think as cars change,
That's a good point.
we're already kind of starting to see on high-end cars, but moving downward to just normal cars, the bigger, LED displays filling up the entire dashboard.
Yep.
When I was at CES this last year, that was one of the big show points was, the movement to, it's not just a digital display. The digital display takes up essentially the entire width of your dashboard.
Wow.
And that starts to create opportunities for AR right there. Because now it's like, okay, you've got forward-facing cameras rather than having like a map that says, hey, the grocery store you're headed to is over here. It's literally, you're seeing like you're seeing an arrow pointing to it, and it overlaps what the camera sees.
Yeah.
And so I think it's stuff like that. I think is really useful. Even like, you read at Tesla. Tesla does a really cool job with their LiDAR data, creating an AR. Here's all the cars around you in real time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like flying like in, like the night flying kind of, stuff. And so I think day to day, I think most people are going to play with AR. VR, I think, is going to be pretty specialized.
Yep.
The thing I'm curious to see what happens is when Apple released the Vision Pro.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever put one on?
Yeah.
What was your favorite thing you did with it?
There was like a Jurassic Park dinosaur simulator, and I'll tell you what, the 4K of it all, how realistic it looked, the sounds, and you turn, and typically, with VR, you turn and you're like, oh, I see a little bit of a glitch.
Yeah.
You're immersed, and it is almost as close as you're like, it's the closest thing I would like call it virtual IMAX, because that's how it feels.
And that's, I had the same kind of impression. Like I was not, all their meeting stuff and things like that. I'm like, this is interesting, but why would I do this? It's a lot more hassle than just being on the screen.
Yeah.
And I don't have any other friends who've got one anyways, because they're kind of expensive.
Yeah.
But what I thought was really cool was exactly that the dinosaur thing was amazing.
Yeah.
Because the sound location was perfect.
Yeah.
Its interactivity with you was great. The fact that the dinosaurs were tracking your eye motion.
Yep.
And so you could look, it would follow where you looked, and you could kind of get a sense of what it can do.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched a movie in one?
Haven't watched a movie.
It's kind of great.
Is it good?
If I was somebody who didn't have access to a big wall where I could have my own TV.
Yeah.
I think about like early professional version of me, it'd be like, oh, this thing's awesome because it looks really good. They do kind of a cool thing. I mean, I love the fact with the Vision Pro that it's not completely blacked out from your world, that in the non-critical areas, you can still see. Yeah. So it's not, I mean, you're still walking around with a ski mask on your head.
Yeah.
But at least, like, if you want to stand up and walk to the kitchen and get popcorn, you can get yourself a freaking popcorn. And I love that piece of it. I don't feel so isolated. And like you said with the 4K, the screen image looks marvelous. The sound is exceptional. And you know, and it is a pretty good experience. So if like I was on a flight, or if I was in a hotel room, or if I was someone who just didn't have a big TV, this would be the way I would do it. You know, and the flip side of it is that it's an expensive device.
Yeah.
But Apple knew that. I mean, they're like, this is a proof of concept of what's going to come later.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of their ideas are worth watching, because it's what I think for VR to take off, you've got to do.
You got to do that.
I think you've got to have great sound. You have to have it be comfortable, and even more so than its device, which is pretty comfortable. It can go further. And I think you also have to be, you know, not feel like to interact with the real world, you got to take the whole thing off and put it back in.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I don't like about this first iteration of their device is that it's absolutely tied to you personally and your Apple account.
That is the thing. Yeah.
And so I remember I was trying to use it, and I'm like, I'm watching the dinosaur thing. I'm going, oh, sure, you got to see this.
Yeah.
And it didn't, I couldn't give it to her because it wasn't her. And when it tried to recalibrate for eyes, she's like, well, that's not you. And it for a while these devices are expensive, they've got to be so portable that they sit, you know, somebody grabs it and looks at it and goes, oh, this is pretty great.
Yeah, it has to be transferable.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll sort that out pretty soon if they haven't already.
UAT Tech Tangents Podcast is sponsored by the University of Advancing Technology. Your future in tech is calling. Learn more about UAT at uat.edu.